Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dreams of owning a home or investing in one. So at the time of this recording, it is August 29th. And for those of you who know, this is Michael Jackson's birthday. So in honor of his birthday, I figured I'd give my little 2 cents or a little tidbit of what's going on with the Jacksons with Gary, Indiana. I personally have not been to Gary, Indiana. I tried to go many years ago after he died, like a year or two after he died, and I was very unsuccessful because at that time, the closest I could get is to Chicago, and there really wasn't much of anything as far as transportation, as far as hotels or anything like that for those of us who are fans of this singer, who is not just a singer extraordinaire, dancer extraordinaire, but the greatest entertainer that ever lived. Okay, and I'm still, to be honest with you, I'm not really all that crazy about how he is being treated after death. I feel more should be done, but this is my way, in a sense, of sort of giving back or whatever, what have you. All right, so let's just get into it. Let's talk about, this time I'm going to focus only on Gary, Indiana, because I've spoken about Neverland already, okay, in another video some years ago. All right, so as those of you who are fans, and maybe some of you, you may not be familiar with this, but the Jackson family has actually been involved with several initiatives in bringing Gary, Indiana back up on its feet, if you will. They have basically been focusing on preserving their legacy, and they've also been involved in some community projects and some charities. One, of course, that they have done is preserved the Jackson family home. It's now, it's been a historic site, right? What they plan on doing, the city as well as, along with the family, is that there are plans to develop the area around the home into a cultural district. I know I've heard about the house next door. The city wants to take that and turn that into a museum. They want to build a performing arts center and other attractions to celebrate the family's musical legacy. Because let's face it, it's not just Michael. Janet also came from there, also another famous sibling. And then the whole family all together played a pivotal role in music. All right. So we have to do something. I've been waiting, edging for them to like do something or, to see something. So far, the only thing that has improved is I understand that back in 2021, they finally put up a sign on the highway to show where the home actually is. And there's also, I believe it's a plaque or something on the site now to commemorate that Michael actually was born and raised in that particular house, right? Okay. And then other things that they have done is they funded like the local schools that they attended. The family, that is, have funded community centers nearby. That they are mainly, especially Janet, and Michael was too, they were really big on education. And so far, what I know is any efforts to support education and youth programs in the city, they have definitely backed it up as a family. What I did hear, though, unfortunately, on the other hand, is that some of the politicians may not have always used the money that they received in a positive way. But I'm going to leave that to the side. But that's what I've been hearing. And to be honest, I've heard the same thing about Detroit as well. So sometimes you might wonder and say to yourself, I wonder why this city is, not where it should be. And, they have the greatest entertainer here. And why does it look like that? And why is it this way, that way, and the third? Sometimes it's the people that's elected to run the city, run it into the ground instead of building it back up. Okay, so that's why it's important to go out and vote. All right, but I'm going to step down off of the podium and then really talk a little bit more about Gary, Indiana. Again, I haven't been there. However, I did have a friend who took Nico Cherry. She's a little bit more popular in the social media streets, if you will. She is a real estate investor, and she was pumping up another lady that was teaching people how to buy tax liens. And this particular woman, she mainly purchases tax liens in Gary, Indiana. So I had a friend that took the course. I took the course too, but I took it for another reason, and I didn't purchase in Gary. But my friend did, and he said that they were on the up and up. He did get a 2-family for $200. Yes, I said what I said. A 2-family house for $200. But this was, a couple of years back. Anyway, this like 2017, 2018, that's when he did that. I'm pretty sure that I don't think you can get a tax lien for that amount today. I'm not sure, but I doubt it, because I know other people who buy tax liens, and they also focus on Gary. They didn't go through Nico Cherry's program, though. They actually went through a friend of mine that I met on Clubhouse. And I know several people through Clubhouse where the guy teaches you how to buy tax liens for free, by the way, Novell. And he was at InvestFest this year, by the way. They have bought properties in Gary, Indiana. Okay. So let me go back to my friend. So my friend who bought the house, he had to fix it up. There was a lot of damage and everything else like that. So he spent a good amount of money to bring it up to par. But he said that, honestly, when he sold it, he really just broke even. So he didn't really make a profit. And one of the things, or one of the reasons I would say that is because he lives out here in New York. He's in Staten Island trying to do remote rehabs. Yes, it can be done, but it is one of the hardest things that you can do, because you are not there to monitor the contractors, and the contractors can rip you off. Now, I just want to put it out there. No, these contractors did not come from, let's say, Nico Cherry or the woman that she was working with. These are contractors that he found on his own. Okay. And this is something that can happen, like I said, to anybody. Now, the other people that I know that bought those tax liens through Novell, after taking Novell's program, again, they got their own contractors, but they live a lot closer to Indiana. One lived in like Indianapolis, another guy lived in Chicago. So it was a lot easier for them to move around. And then also by that time, there's a train that goes from Chicago to Gary, Indiana. It wasn't there during the time that my friend actually bought the property, bought that tax lien back in 2018. I don't believe it was. And even still, that train does not connect you to New York. So there you go. Anyway, because the other people were closer, they were able to visit their properties a lot more frequently. And then also one of them, he actually was one of the contractors that actually worked on the property himself. He was able to get them at a very reasonable price, and then he sold those properties for a lot of money, And see, here's the thing. A lot of people, they'll say, oh my God, because they said it to me. I would never go to Gary, Indiana. I would never buy nothing in Gary, Indiana. That's a bad area. Yada, 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 yada. But you gotta know that even in a bad neighborhood, there are still ways to make money. There are people that are making money in quote unquote bad neighborhoods, but they got the right team behind them and they got the right strategy behind them. So that's why they're able to make the money that they do. And also when you're looking at certain places to invest, whether remotely or if it's in your area, okay, you still have to do some research. Like you can't just go to the tax lien auction and bid on a tax lien. One of the things that you need to do, which is what I did, was I look at the city planning and I see, okay, what areas in the city are they looking to develop? Because whatever areas in the city that they're looking to develop, that is the primary place where you really should invest. Now, sometimes you don't really need to do all of that. For example, if there's a beach and there's a house near that beach, forget about city planning. You pretty much, are good to go. Okay. But otherwise, especially if it's a city that you're not familiar with, definitely you can Google city planning, and nowadays you can use AI. Now, in addition to all of that, besides having friends that invested there, what have you, I also had a previous coach who unfortunately we're not seeing eye to eye right now. She was one of the people that was against me buying a mortgage note of all things. She didn't even want me to buy that in Gary, Indiana. She was like, no, it's not up to par. I can't let you do that. You're going to lose your money, whatever, what have you. Well, she drove through the area one day because she was in, I forgot what city she was in, and she had to go through Gary in order to go to the other city. Anyway, it may have been Detroit that she was trying to get to. I don't remember. Anyway, as she was driving through, she noticed that, wait a minute. This city, there are certain parts that they have actually turned around. And she could see where there were things that were coming up. And then after that, plus the train didn't come yet, but I found an article saying that they were going to build that train station. Oh, once that was there, once I showed her that, oh my goodness, then she was motivating everybody to buy in Gary. And a lot of people who bought mortgage notes in Gary made good money. Okay? They made excellent money. All right? So, listen, be careful when you hear other people put another place down, because sometimes you don't know what part of the city they were in, and you also don't know what type of revitalization is going to happen. What's there today might not necessarily be there tomorrow. And if you look at other places, like look at Harlem, for example, which is a neighborhood, right? Not a city. But I remember back in the 70s, nobody wanted to touch Harlem. Okay? Now, Harlem is so expensive that a lot of the original residents can't afford to live here anymore. They got to move. Detroit, so many people was like, oh no, don't touch Detroit, don't go to Detroit. Now, Detroit, downtown Detroit is more than 90% occupied. Many of the prices of the homes have doubled and tripled already from 2014. So be very careful. Do your own research. Do your own research. You can't totally rely on people when it comes to, what a city looks like. And one side of the city may not look like the other side. Like the north is a lot of times different from the south. The east is a lot of times different from the west. Sometimes the culture is completely different. Right here in New York, Jacksn Heights and Queens, you cross the street and it's like you're in a different country. No joke. One side Indian, another side Colombian, then you go over here, Pakistani, and then you go over here and it's Peruvian. Okay? So, yes, you have to be thorough when you're doing your research. And so here's what I found. I found that Gary, Indiana is definitely building up the lakefront district. Currently, they're focusing on building up their transportation area, centers, districts, Broadway. They're concentrating on Miller, Ayetna, and Ryan neighborhoods, as well as University Park. Okay? So if you're going to invest, you might want to either go there yourself and look at those areas or hire somebody that already lives there, or hire a service that uses people who already lives there that can go and take pictures and take videos for you. And you can pay them. A lot of times be anywhere between like $8 to $125, depending on what it is you want, how much pictures you want, how much of a report you want. You understand me? Now, excuse me, I have COVID, unfortunately. I'm getting over it. So, you want to look at the infrastructure, and from what I understand, near the Miller train station, they say that they are going to be increasing the number of parking spaces. They're going to be making it more accessible for bikers and also for pedestrians. All right. Other areas that they mentioned was Todd Station and Miller Beach. Okay. As far as the industry that they're looking to increase and improve on is the trucking industry, and they also plan on building more shopping centers. They're going to be demolishing a lot of the old buildings. Now, for investors, what's very important that you hear is that the city has been approved for hardest hit funds. So that means if you are an investor, especially if you're in mortgage notes, you know that if a homeowner has any problems with paying you because they lost their job or whatever, what have you, that city has hardest hit funds available for that homeowner to apply for. You direct that homeowner to apply for those grants, and the government will be paying you their mortgage on a monthly basis. How about that? They also have the Community Development Building Fund grant, which is for people who want to build affordable housing. Okay, that's also a tax incentive, as well as a grant for real estate investors. So this is what the city is doing in order to make some improvements. Now, on top of all of that, what do they have for homeowners? They have the Dollar House program. That will allow you to buy a house for, yes, $1. And you can also do that when you go under HUD Homes. They have homes there in Gary, Indiana for $1. So what is the catch? Because my mother loves to say that, all right? So the catch is you have to make $35,000 in order to qualify for that program. 2, you have only 6 months to bring it up to code. So whatever property you buy, whether you buy it through a tax lien, a mortgage note, well, you wouldn't do a tax lien on mortgage notes because you're buying it for $1. What you would do is you would definitely need to have an engineer look through the house to tell you what codes need to be corrected, how much it's going to cost to correct it, and how long do they think it's going to take to correct it. Because if there's too many building code violations, you're not going to cut it. I'm telling you that right now. Okay, so you need to ask those 3 questions to an inspector or an engineer. I prefer engineer over inspector because engineers are thorough, and normally they've already worked on homes. Most inspectors are not contractors and they've never worked on a home. So they don't really know most of them don't know how long it's going to take in order to correct that building code violation. And since you only have 6 months, that's why. All right. And if they tell you it takes 6 months, I still wouldn't buy that particular house. Because a lot of times, a lot of these people do not check what is behind the wall. Sometimes the walls are exposed on these homes for $1, but sometimes they're not. So I would only buy a home like that if they told me, oh, it's going to take 3 months or 2 months to fix it. I wouldn't buy a home if they say 6, because you always have to double the amount of times they tell you is going to take. All right. And you don't want to, fall behind and be in violation. And then, of course, the last requirement is that you have to live in that house for 5 years. So this is Gary, Indiana's plan or plans to improve the city and to bring it up to par, to make it more touristic. But I really didn't see like where they were talking about like bringing in hotels, because that is really the issue right there. They do have some Airbnbs. The Airbnbs, though, are not near Michael Jackson's house or the Jackson's house. That's the thing, though. Like, you would still have to drive over there. But it would be nice, in my opinion, if they're going to do the museum and the Performing Arts Center and all of these things, I really wish I saw the word hotel, but I don't see the word hotel. I know that, if I'm not mistaken, where I did see it, they said that was one that they were going to demolish, but they didn't mention about, putting another one there in its place so that we, the fans, particularly those of us who do not like to drive, like myself, can go and stay there. You understand me? So anyway, that is what I found. That is my also my additional advice in case any of you were thinking about, hey, maybe we should contribute in building that city up and making it more accessible, whatever, for fans of the Jacksons, you know. Let me know, by the way, in the comment section, how many of you would be interested in either investing in Gary, Indiana, and using the programs that I mentioned, or those of you who would even think about living in Gary, Indiana, since they are selling homes for $1. I mean, after all, they do have that fast train that takes you to Chicago and Detroit. So, which I understand Gary, Indiana is overall a lot less expensive than those two cities. You know, I mean, I'd like to hear your feedback on that. And you can drop that down in the comment section. So guys, that's all I have. Feel free to pass this amongst your friends. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.